The easiest way to control someone's decision is not always to control the information. Sometimes you only need to control the clock. Tell people the opportunity is disappearing. Tell them everyone is waiting. Tell them that hesitation will make them look weak, indecisive, or uncommitted. And suddenly a weak argument no longer has to be convincing. It only has to become urgent. You've probably experienced this in a meeting. Someone presents an idea that is incomplete, expensive, or poorly supported. There are obvious questions, the risk have not been fully examined, and nobody's quite sure who will be responsible if it fails. Then someone says, "We need to make a decision today," and the entire conversation changes. People stop asking, "Is this a good idea?" They start asking, "Am I going to be the person who holds this up?" That's the hidden power of urgency. It changes the social risk of disagreement. Before the deadline was introduced, you were evaluating the proposal. After the deadline was introduced, everyone is evaluating you. Are you being difficult? Are you being afraid to act or slowing down the team? Are you missing the opportunity? Urgency gives weak arguments something they did not earn: authority. Now, to be clear, real urgency exists. Buildings catch fire, markets move, customers leave, systems fail. Some decisions genuinely cannot wait, but legitimate urgency and manufactured urgency behave very differently. Real urgency can usually explain itself. It can tell you that what has changed. It can tell you why the deadline exists. It can tell you what becomes impossible if the decision is delayed. And it can usually tolerate a few precise questions. Manufactured urgency does the opposite. It becomes irritated when questioned. It relies on vague consequences, something like we could lose momentum. This may be our only chance. Leadership expects an answer. We cannot afford to overthink this. Notice how none of those statements necessarily explain what will actually happen. They create pressure without providing any clarity. And that is often the point, because when the argument is strong, the facts create momentum. When the argument is weak, the clock has to do the work. You see, this is far beyond the workplace. A salesperson tells you the offer expires tonight. We've all had that, especially at car lots. A recruiter says you need to accept before reviewing the details. A business partner wants you to sign before your lawyer reads the agreement. A manager introduces a major change on Friday afternoon and expects approval before the weekend. Even in personal relationships, people use urgency to escape examination. Answer me right now. Tell me, whose side are you on? If you cared, you wouldn't need time to think. These statements are powerful because they turn reflection into evidence against you. Your hesitation becomes guilt, your caution becomes weakness, and your questions become disloyalty. And once that happens, the person applying pressure no longer has to defend the decision. They only have to defend the deadline. So what do you do when someone tries to control the decision by controlling the clock? Don't immediately argue with the proposal. Challenge the urgency. Ask what specifically becomes impossible if we decide tomorrow. That is an extremely powerful question. It does not accuse anyone of manipulation. Doesn't even reject the idea. It simply requires the urgency to prove itself. You can also ask, what changed today that makes this decision necessary now? Or what is the cost of waiting 24 hours? These questions separate real deadlines from theatrical ones. And if the urgency is legitimate, the answers will usually become more specific. The customer will leave at noon, or the contract expires at 5. The systems will shut down overnight, or even the price changes tomorrow. Now you have the information, but what if the answers remain vague, emotional, or defensive? That tells you something important. The urgency may not be protecting the opportunity. It may be protecting the argument from scrutiny. Strong leaders understand this distinction. They know that decisiveness does not mean answering quickly. It means knowing when speed matters and when speed is being used against the quality of the decision. Insecure leaders often confuse hesitation with weakness. Effective leaders know that sometimes the most powerful sentence in the room is, I understand that this feels urgent. I still need a clear reason why it cannot wait. That is not indecision, that is control. Because a person who controls the pace often controls the outcome. And one of the oldest ways to make people surrender their judgment is to convince them they no longer have time to use it. So the next time someone needs your approval immediately, pay attention. Do not only over-examine the argument, examine the clock. Ask who created that deadline. Ask what actually happens if you wait. Ask whether the urgency is revealing new information or hiding the absence of it. Because good decisions can sometimes survive pressure, but weak arguments often depend on it. Urgency doesn't make an idea more intelligent. It doesn't make evidence stronger. It doesn't even make the person applying pressure more correct. Sometimes urgency is simply how a weak argument borrows authority it never earned.